to the Daoscape Arts podcast. This is part 3 of a 3-part podcast titled Amerta and Beyond, Free Dance Movement Meditation. Recorded while sitting in Linglong Park, Beijing, China, with professional performance artist and free movement facilitator Bo SiWen. SiWen has a background in Chinese performing arts and has been delivering workshops that revolve around the Javanese Amerta free movement approach to meditative expression. This episode looks at the role of wholesome intention in free movement, the influence of the dancer's past experiences and subconscious on their free movement expression, and the founder of Amerta, Suprapto's personal expressiveness during free movement meditation.
Some people told me that Suprapto, when he was young, he was a shaman, but he never taught that techniques or skills to people.
Like a traditional shaman?
Yes, like he could channel, he did channeling, and he could let spirit to come to his body and spoke through him. But then Suprapto thought this is not doing him any good, because after the spirit left, he's still stupid. So he decided not to do that. So he decided to devote his energy into the artwork instead of channeling more. And one time we were discussing about shamanism, and Suprapto told us that it's really depending on your intention. Because some people want to become shaman only because they want power, they want to manipulate, and they want to get something to feed their egos. But actually, true shamanism is not like that, and they serve another realm, and they have a mission on this earth.
It's very interesting you say this word intention, because on the previous podcast AJ was also talking about the importance of intention within Shaolin Gong Fu, you know, saying this is number one. And also personally, I think in Chinese traditional arts, that's also been the key word, this yi, right, the yi nian.
Yeah.
And working with this, the intention is maybe the most important thing, right?
Yes, I think so. Intention, yeah.
And so, how do you work with intention yourself, and maybe also in your daily life as well? And do you kind of cultivate it or source it in a specific way? Or?
For me, my intention is to walk on a path where my heart guides me. So, you know, a very popular book called The Teachings of Don Juan. This is from the 60s.
Oh yes,
yes. And I think
Mexican shaman.
Mexican shaman. Yeah. He also said something about choosing a path of heart, and I really agree with him. I think the heart knows where to go. The heart knows what your task on the earth and what your mission, what your talents are, and the heart naturally give you a way. So that's mostly my intention, and the heart's way is also a way of love and kindness as well. So my intention is to serve in a way where I can be humble, and I can also share my talent and my for example, recently I feel like in this way of movement practice I can bridge the gap between the seen and the unseen, and in this way I can get higher wisdoms from the unseen spectrum or unseen realm, and then I can sort of like share the knowledge or share the information with people. So in this way we can have a new perspective. But it's all coming from the intention of serving. So it's not like I want to be a teacher, I want to be high above everyone else, but it's all about helping the earth, the planet, to be a better place. But to fulfill that mission, I think everyone at the beginning need to wake up from the stage of sleeping, from the stage of being pulled around by their egos, by their subconscious. You wake up, you know what's in the past, you know what's influencing you, and then you can start to cleanse. You can start to purify yourself and let go of the beliefs which doesn't serve you anymore. And then you can allow yourself to transform from the stage of a victim to a person who is responsible for himself. You can take care, you can grow from this place. And then you can fully open. So when you grow up, you can open up for the unknown and the known. You can acknowledge that, okay, this is something I don't know, I want to explore, I don't want to use the known to frame it or to describe it, but instead I want to just be open to anything possible. And when you have this kind of state, then you can finally start to manifest your intention to your life, and then this is the beginning of sharing. Yeah.
And I remember in the past you've also said something about Suprapto encouraging people to find their own kind of vocabulary, their own kind of physical dance vocabulary. Have you made any progress on that front? Or?
Well, I never try to do that actually, because Suprapto, he thinks his way is always the art and creation and evolution. But for me, I wouldn't think that aspect is very important for me. Yeah, because the language is, I wouldn't, how do I say this? I wouldn't want to have this one specific language, but instead, for example, when I'm talking to a bird, I can have the bird's language, and when I'm talking to a tree, I can have the tree's language. So the language is always changing. I wouldn't have just this one form or one language to do my movement, but when you're attuning, the language naturally comes. Yeah.
It's through connection, right? And
yeah, it's the connection. Right. But of course, everyone has his or her own patterns or habitual movements, and I also try to not let it limit me so much, just to relax yourself and to allow the unknown thing to happen on the body. So, for example, my friend has a personal museum, and he has something maybe from historical time, and very strange stuff with carvings of this people with wings and fish tails. It's quite like an alarming thing in a way. And he asked me to go there to move in front of it, to see what my body get from this thing. And my body started to move in a very unfriendly way, like a reptile, you know. And I feel this is not human. This is definitely not human, because everything is so quirky and it's so disgusting. And also it has this message of some sort of warning like this. But I didn't really want to interpret, because this is something impossible to interpret. If I interpret, I always have my own stories in it. I have my own personality in it. But I want to be neutral. But how can I be neutral? Because my body is already mine. So I can only sense what I get and to move in that kind of way, and I can try to think and what is that? So this is like a language, yeah. But when I'm moving in a garden, or when I'm moving with a very pleasant person, of course my language can change. Yeah.
It makes me wonder, you know, because you said you have a background in folk dance, traditional Chinese folk dance, and ballet also. How many years did you do ballet for?
I did ballet for 3 years, 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And you kind of worked hard at that, and you had quite high achievement in that? Or?
I wouldn't say high achievement, but I work really, really hard because I really love it.
You still love it now? Or?
I don't do it anymore, but I still enjoy watching it. Yeah.
And you still have some feeling maybe you'd like to take part in that?
Yes, I think every dance form has its own quality or information or energy. And in ballet, you can sense it's something not very grounded. Yeah, it's not earthy. It's like fairy-like, and everything is like so delicate and warm and bubbly, like that kind of frequency.
It makes me think a bit about like some of these traditional Chinese. I think they're very ancient, kind of like spiritual women who fly up into the sky with these silk.
Fei Tian. Yes.
Yeah, Fei Tian. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of this kind of thing, but maybe in a more kind of rigid Western kind of
I don't know where ballet came from or how they create ballet, but ballet definitely has a quality of like the like fairies or angels or princes, like lightness, lightheartedness, like that kind of,
Do you feel any of this comes out while you're doing...
Oh, not at all.
Well, why not?
Because the movement practice, the improvisation is so broad that you wouldn't, how do I put this? So there's so many different layers in this practice. And if you're stuck in one layer of the fairies layer, then you wouldn't get much from it. Then why do you do movement practice? You just go to ballet. Are you asking like whether I'm influenced by it?
I'm just meaning because, as you say, you can only respond as you are, right? You can only respond, from where you've been and where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, and in terms of kind of like a dance vocabulary, does any of this just happen to come out while you're doing a kind of more free movement expression?
For me personally, no. Because ballet is still like a foreign thing. Even I was trained for 3-4 years, but still ballet is not natural in my body. But what's natural in my body might be Chinese dance, maybe folk dance. They influence me more because I grew up, watched those folk dance, and I was learning them, adapting, no matter conscious or not conscious. I have this in my body. So sometimes in movement practice, I discover this very Eastern way of moving my body.
Right.
It can be very different from the Western people. But Suprapto says maybe between him and me, we have some similarity because we're all Eastern, and some sort of like Tai Chi movement in the body. But I wasn't intentionally doing that. It's just in my identity. It's just in my body build and my blood. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, this idea of that Fei Tian, that I'm not sure what we call it in English. I knew at one point it's kind of like a maiden of heaven or something like this,
Yeah.
Like kind of like an angel in some respects. But when we come to these maybe spiritual practices and become lighter and more free, in terms of our expression, I was thinking maybe in the ancient times there was this kind of thing going on, within Buddhism and dance and exploration of self. Maybe those kind of characters or symbols, or I'm not sure what to call them, but spirit maybe.
Spirit.
Just naturally appears when you do this kind of dancing.
Do you believe in spirit?
Well, I'm open-minded about these things, but I used to believe in ghosts. I don't really anymore. But I just mean like it's a kind of more almost a metaphor for a certain kind of feeling or experience.
Yes.
Like you said, when you had that very deep, kind of enlightenment kind of feeling. You said there was a kind of breakdown between yourself and your environment.
Yes.
And a kind of maybe a kind of sense of freedom and emptiness.
Yes.
And maybe those, like you said, in the East, people grow up with this kind of imagery in temples and in religious texts and things.
Yes.
Maybe somewhere deep in the subconscious, this kind of comes out.
Yes, I think the subconscious is so deep. We only know so little about it. Not only our own subconscious, but also the collective subconscious, and also the things in our DNA from the ancestors, even from the earth itself, because the earth is so old and we have the same element. Yeah. For example, this is a bit strange maybe for people, but yesterday I did a meditation because another teacher, a Dutch person called Roy Martina, he told us that in the spiritual realm there are so many different beings as well, and then he can connect with angels, he can connect with dragons. And I was like, oh, dragons, that's interesting. I want to feel dragons.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah.
Yes, so yesterday in the meditation I was trying to connect with dragons. At the beginning I was imagining these dragons from Game of Thrones, and they didn't really work well.
Oh, not Chinese dragon. What's wrong with that?
Well, because the TV, it's very influential. And I was trying to imagine very hard, like I was driving the dragon and flying, but it didn't work at all. But the moment I realized, no, I don't want to force it. I want to see if I can sense something. As soon as I let go of the intention, things really started to show. Yeah, I sensed like something beyond me. I was like, okay, tune me with dragon, tune me with dragon. Like, help me to tune with dragon.
To tune into the dragon.
Help me to tune into the dragon. And then I was relaxing, I was waiting. And then in my mind, I was closed eyes, but this massive yellow-white light started to spread in front of me, in front of my face. And beyond the light, I could sense the dragon's breathing. In the meditation, because in that realm you cannot tell the difference between the imagination and the reality, because everything felt so real. It gave you emotional and physical impact. And I sensed the dragon was breathing, and I was reaching out my hand to it. And when it was breathing, the whole world was breathing together with it. And it's so strong, so powerful, so wise. And then the image suddenly changed. I saw the dragon started to move underneath the earth, and it created massive earthquake. And people were yelling, and people were dying, and just like a disaster. But on another level, like in the heaven or the spiritual world, it's like a celebration of purification. It's like an edification of the soul frequency. Because what the dragon does is actually helping the earth to get rid of the things that it doesn't need anymore, to purify itself. Right. So it's such a powerful image. I was like sobbing like when I was seeing everything, and I just couldn't get out of it. Yeah, and then I realized...
Sounds frightening to me.
It is, but it's a very strong message, no matter it's real or not, no matter it's real dragon or it's just my imagination, but it has such a big impact on me. And when I was telling other people, they also felt the impact. So yeah, we all believe this is like a powerful information from the unseen, and maybe it can do something to the humankind. It can warn us, look, don't do any destroy to the nature anymore, because the earth can really get angry.
Right.
So I think
the practice demands. I mean, this isn't only Suprapto's practice, right?
No,
this is something more.
This is something else. Yeah, this is definitely something else.
Have you got this from another person, or?
Yeah, this is not from another person, because I know I do art all the time, so my right brain is very, they can go really wild. Yeah. So this is just using visualization, to connect with something. Right. And also very interesting is in the workshop of Roy Martina, I also try to tune into the frequency of angels, because he said, we have angels. So I try to imagine those beings surrounding me, and I felt it so bubbly, so light, and so lovable, and they're around me. And I was doing that for 10 minutes. After the meditation, the session was over, and we had a break. And this wonderful thing happened. You have no idea. People all came to me. I did nothing.
They could sense something.
I did nothing. I started to chat with my neighbor, and then suddenly I realized 5-6 people came to me. And they started to look at me in such a wonder face, like
a saintly,
I don't know why.
Aura.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's such a wonderful frequency around you. Like, what are you? What do you do? It's like, I'm not doing anything. I think the angels are still there, and they can really sense it. Right. So this is the power of imagination, visualization, and meditation. Yeah, no matter it's real or not, you can make some change in yourself. You can bring it to the people. So I guess in movement practice, if I can embody this new skill with it, then maybe it can really give it to a new level.
It reminds me of like those loving kindness practices where they say, you imagine a loved one's face smiling towards you and feel your body bathed in this love and kindness. It really has a therapeutic.
It's the same, I think so.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So before, you've mentioned Suprapto's character as being someone who's kind of, he's very particular, and he has a very strong sense of being a certain kind of person or character, quite humorous and comical at times.
Oh yes.
Almost like a creature.
Yeah, he's so funny. He does word plays all the time, and he can use English in such a personal way that it's like he's creating English. Yeah, for example, sometimes he says something like, "Are you comfortable on the comfort table, or are you under the table?" So this is like so metaphorical, and you can have so many different kind of interpretations. And one time he said something like, I am not a monk, I am a monkey, because I'm a monk with key.
Right.
Yeah, he always does
So he's a very, very playful guy, right?
Very playful, yeah.
Would you say that's just something who he was before he started practicing this kind of Buddhist free expression dance? Or do you feel that actually it's very intimately connected with the practice, with his dance practice?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Would you say that the way he's so playful with things, do you think that's a product of his practice, his Amerta practice? Or would you say it's actually just who he is? Because, you find playful people everywhere in the world.
I maybe half and half. Maybe partly it's who he is, but maybe from the practice he slowly learned how to relax, how to surrender, how to let things happen, and then things can flow more naturally in and around him. I think playful people are all very relaxed people, very laid back. Yeah, if you're very tensed, you wouldn't have any humor. Yeah, you would struggle inside so much and consume so much energy. Yeah, I think it's from his idea of relaxation.
And you've said the way he moves his hands, he has a very kind of, maybe this is his own vocabulary, or is this...
Yes.
He moves his hands in a very specific way.
Yes, it's very intriguing, because sometimes when he's watching his participants practicing, he's sitting outside, but he's also moving his hand in a way, like up and down or vertically, or his eyesight change from a direction to another direction. I think he's influencing the space in this way, or making dialogue in his own way with the hand and with the participants. And I believe that what he does, or only his attention can make a change in the field and can maybe sending new energy or whatever. I don't know what he's doing, but his hand is definitely always trying to tune and trying to speak. And his touch is also very different from other people, because when you move with someone, when they touch you, you can feel they put their attention on you as if they're taking care of the moment, they're taking care of your relationship. But with Suprapto, when you're moving together, when he's touching your body, you feel like he still has this panorama view of the world, and he's giving you attention, giving you acknowledgement, but still he's standing in himself. He's still being very neutral, and he's still like somewhere here, but somewhere not here. Yeah, but you already feel his love, and he's like this tube. He's channeling the nature, through his body and to his hand and onto you, which is like really enlightening and powerful. And when you move, you always have this sort of like, oh, this feeling, but you don't know what's going on. And
is it maybe there's a kind of aura that people have projected onto him in some way as well? Like, it's like, I'm doing this with the special teacher, and maybe, this adds to the feeling of it? Or?
Yes, of course there are projections, expectations, and some people can get upset when they don't get touched. Or yeah, of course there is that. And but again, if you're honest in the moment, if you're really honest with what's happening in the body, and then you can really get something from Suprapto's body language and also your language that is emerging in that moment. Yeah.
Do you think he works with the hands a lot as well as a kind of like Asian, this idea of mudra with the Buddha hands?
Yes.
Do you think he's using that to some degree? Or?
I'm not sure if he's really using the idea of mudras, but definitely we had a practice in Borobudur or Plausen Temple of mudras. He let us to observe the Buddha statues, and those statues all had different mudras. And then he just sort of want to inspire us about how the hand can speak, with different forms, and they can give different informations. And Suprapto doesn't really do that practice, but I do a practice with my participants of the mudras. So I would take them to a temple in Beijing called Baitai, the White Tower Temple, and there are hundreds of of Buddha statues with different mudras, even different physical positions, like dance shapes. Yeah, so when you're there, you sense all different mudras really give you different feelings or information. And then you start to embody the mudras. And this practice is like two people sitting face to face to each other, and you sense the moment, you sense the other person, and when you're ready, you start to create a mudra to this person. And then once your mudra is finished, the other person sends the information from your mudra, and then they start to create something like making a dialogue. Reply from it. And then slowly you can see these two people sitting, like two Buddhas sitting to each other and using mudras to communicate with each other.
Interesting. Do you have any video recordings of this I could put on our podcast?
I don't, unfortunately, but I have a picture of it. Maybe I can send it to you. Yeah, some people are really good at it. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask you something else about that mudra practice. I can't remember what it is now. So, I think maybe the last question is, how do you integrate this into your daily life? So, for example, after our podcast today, you're going to walk off back to your house, and then just live your normal life. So, how does your dance practice come into your everyday life in any kind of profound way? Or?
Yes, very, very profound. For example, this interview, like before we talk about leaving space when we are talking, and I think slowly in the movement I learned how to relax my body. I learned how to slow down and give myself time and space to let it naturally happen. So if I'm so nervous about what I speak, if I'm so nervous about my grammar, then I think I wouldn't talk too much. I would spend most of the time struggling inside myself. So relaxation is the most thing I get from the movement. And in the practice, Suprapto always say something like slowly, slowly. So every time towards the end of the practice, he always says slowly, slowly, noticing sky, noticing earth, noticing your body, empty access, empty space, like this. So in this way, we learn to practice not only on time, but also in the flow of time. Yeah, and in daily life, it's also like we were in the flow of time. So we wouldn't push us so much towards some goal. For example, I'm running to the job, I'm running towards succeed, running towards grave, basically. I'm not making myself too busy anymore. Before, I was so busy all the time, and I always want to do something. I always want to prove myself, to prove that I can do this, and to prove to people, and basically because I don't really trust myself. But in this practice, I learned how to root myself, to trust my feet, trust where they're going, to trust my breathing, and trust my pillar. So I have a pillar inside my body. It's something I can lean on, something I can...
Pagoda.
Yes, like the pagoda. So once you have these things, and you can just allow yourself to be yourself, allow the being to fully be, without pushing it.
This is the end of Podcast 2, Part 3, Amerta and Beyond with Bo SiWen.